welcome to the video from Math Skills 0.2, which is how to use ratios, fractions, and percentages. First of all, what is a ratio? A ratio compares values, and it says how much of one thing there is compared to another. So, for example, if you have 3 lessons a week with one chemistry teacher and 2 with your other teacher, then the ratio of your chemistry lessons is 3 to 2. Now, ratios can be simplified by dividing each part by the highest common factor. So, if, for example, you were talking about the number of girls and boys in the class, and you had 15 boys and 10 girls, both of those numbers can be divided by 5. So instead of having the ratio of 15 to 10, if you divide 15 by 5, you get 3, and if you divide 10 by 5, you get 2. So the ratio of boys to girls is then 3 to 2. So it's very similar to simplifying fractions, which you should be familiar with. Now, if you've got ratios with more than 2 parts, then all of them need to be divided by the same number. So, for example, if the number of different hair colours in a classroom was 3 to 12 to 6 to 9, then the highest common factor is 3, so the ratio becomes 3 divided by 3, which is 1, 12 divided by 3, which is 4, 6 divided by 3, which is 2, and 9 divided by 3, which is 3. So it then becomes 1 to 4 to 2 to 3. Now, if we have a ratio, we can convert it to a percentage. So, for example, if you had a 1-to-1 ratio of boys to girls in the classroom, then that would be 50% boys and 50% girls. So in that case, you could probably figure that out in your head without doing anything complicated. But it's best to have a step-by-step method for the ones that are a bit more tricky. So to do this conversion, what you do is you add up all the numbers together and then divide 100 by that number. And then you multiply each ratio by that number that you just worked out. So for our example above, when you've got a 1-to-1 ratio, 1 plus 1 is 2. So you divide 100 by 2, that gives you 50. And then you multiply 1 by 50, which is 50, and 1 by 50, which is 50. So that gives 50% and 50%. For our second example here, if we had a 2 to 3 ratio of boys to girls, 2 plus 3 is 5. 100 divided by 5 is 20. So that means one of the ratio units is 20. So 2 times 20 is 40% of boys, and 3 times 20 is 60% of girls. So a 2 to 3 ratio would be 40% boys and 60% girls. Now, if we want to convert percentages to ratios, then you simply need to divide each percentage by the highest common factor. So if we have, for example, 20%, 60%, and 20%, then that would, the highest common factor we've got there is 20. So it would be 20 divided by 20 is 1, 60 divided by 20 is 3, 20 divided by 20 is 1, so it would be 1 to 3 to 1 ratio. If we want to convert fractions to percentages, then you simply divide the top number by the bottom number and multiply by 100. So, for example, a quarter, 1 divided by 4 is 0.25, and then you multiply that 0.25 by 100, that gives you 25. So to convert percentages to fractions, first of all you write down the percent divided by 100. Secondly, if the percent that you've just written down is not a whole number, then multiply both the top and the bottom by 10 for every number after the decimal point. So if you had, say for example, 5.65, you'd have to multiply it by 100 because there's 2 numbers after the decimal point. Then lastly, you simplify the fraction by dividing both the top and the bottom number by the highest common factor. So we'll talk you through an example here. So if you had 12.5%, you first of all write that down, the percent divided by 100, so that would be 12.5 divided by 100. Then you've got one decimal point, one number after the decimal point, so you have to multiply both numbers by 10, so that gives 125 divided by 1000. And then lastly, we're going to simplify that by looking at the top and bottom number and finding the highest common factor. So in this case, the highest common factor is 125. So 125 divided by 125 is 1, and 1000 divided by 125 is 8. So the fraction then becomes 1 divided by 8. If we want to convert ratios to fractions, then first of all you add up all the numbers in the ratio, and that gives you a number that goes on the bottom of the fraction. Then to get the fraction, divide the ratio by the number on the bottom, and if necessary simplify. So for example, if you had the ratio of 2 to 4, you add up 2 plus 4 equals 6, so the number on the bottom of each fraction is going to be 6. And then to get the fraction, we said divide the ratio by the number on the bottom. So 2 divided by 6 would be 2 6, and then 4 divided by 6 would give you 4 6. And if you want to, at this point, you can just double check that you've done it correctly, because it should add up to 1. However, once we've got our 2 6 and 4 6, we then need to simplify it. So in this case, there's a common factor of 2, so 2 6 becomes a third and 4 6 becomes 2 thirds. So that brings us to the end of the instruction. If you're doing the Office Mix version of this video, then you can go on to the next few slides and answer the questions. If not, then just make sure you understand everything we've gone over. If not, review the video or look in the textbook or find some information online.